answer already today, but you're going to do it again. You have a half a minute. Ready? Go. Tell your partner. Okay, extensive reading. Extensive reading. What percent of vocabulary do you understand in reading? Intensive in the classroom. Okay, we need to do a survey here. We need to do a survey. What percent of my presentation do you understand? 100%? 80%? 90? Okay, good. Okay. Okay, intensive is 90 or you understand? Okay, 90%. Okay, very good. Okay. Okay, so intensive, it could be, you get strange answers, 60, 70, 80, whatever, because you have a teacher, have dictionaries. It's a learning process. Extensive reading, we'll talk about that. Next question. Oh, there you go. Okay. You're going from level 10? Oh, you can. Oh, wow. Oh, you changed the battery. Ah. So my energy has a problem. Her energy is very good. Okay, we'll try. Okay, all right. So your level's 10. You want to go to 11. What level of books in extensive reading should you read? Very quickly. Anybody? 9? Anybody else? 12, 14, 8, 7, 10? Yes? Anybody, please? Do you understand the question? 9? Okay. All right. So here are the answers. You changed the battery. Okay. All right. Okay. So this is pollination. We talked about pollination before. They did 95%, 98%. Then they said, no, they need 99%. We want easy reading at home. No challenges. This is not studying. This is reading. They're not worried about vocabulary. They're not worried about grammar. They're reading a story. And we want them to read and read and read a story, a story, a story. 99%. And if they're levels 10, do we read 11? No. Or 9? No. 3 or 4. Okay, because Coca-Cola, bubbles. We have bubbles in our English. So this is really not +1. This is like +8. Okay? So we want to get rid of all these bubbles. We have students reading very simple stories, okay? And then they go higher and higher and higher. And what used to be 3, level 5, is now level 3. What used to be level 7 is now level 5. Okay? That's through time. That will happen. Okay? Now, the SSS program. Start with simple stories. This is from Japan, language school in Japan. Read only easy stories, 3 and 4. 99%. No dictionaries. If you don't know the word, keep reading. Guess. Imagination. Goal. 1 million words. This is what we want. 1 million words. Okay, a couple studies. Students who read easy books, 200,000 words, did better than students who read 200,000 of more difficult words. Easy is better. Difficult is difficult. Okay, student, 800,000 words. This is key. If you read 800,000 words of simple, which TOEIC and also, TOEFL, IELTS, it doesn't matter. Because we're not preparing for the test, we're creating good language speakers and learners. That's what we want. So you can either focus on the goal is the test, or you can focus on good language learners, which result in good tests. So we want to make better. Okay, results of one student who disappeared, who was here but not here anymore. I did? No, I don't think so. Okay. Okay, there it is. Okay, so this is one student. She took TOEIC every 6 months. How much? Oh, I got all kinds of time. No problem. Okay, so she had 555. The point is, she read in 2 years. She read 2 million words. And her TOEIC score went up 300 points in 2 years. This is what Kent, now of course she did, I'm sure she did other things. She was studying vocabulary and all those other things. But this is what we want. We want students making reading part of their life. Okay, it's just a natural thing that they do. Okay, next. Okay, highest number. Okay, we say, okay, one book a week, forget that. This is one semester. This is 4 months, 16 weeks, 202 books. All right, 342,000 words. Okay, this is what is possible. Now, these are easy books. One book is maybe 1,000 words. Read the book, take a test. Read the book, take a test. Read a book. Okay, so we have monitored programs. We have 2 monitored online programs. Yeah. Okay, what you focus on grows. I don't know. Please. Yeah, just if it's not working, do it. Okay, what we want to do, if you have 100% of your English program, reading, writing, and listening and speaking, we want to double your program by adding reading at home. They should spend an equal amount of time from classroom time at home. This is what has to happen. They need time and effort, and that's the way it happens. Okay, we also have X reading. We have M reader. 6,000 tests, free. Next, please. Okay, you can track. So students have to find a book, they read the book, they take the test. Okay, then the teacher can monitor, they count the words automatically, everything's done. Next, please. X reading. Okay, this is an example. Continue. Okay, this is an example of it. Next, please. But you'll look, if you see that, you'll see that words students read in 1 month, 100,000 words from some locations. Next, please, continue. Okay, X reading. This is an online, it has books. I do represent M-Reader, which is free, and I do represent X reading, which actually is a fee. So it has 750 books, graded readers, starting even 50-word vocabulary, 50-word vocabulary, 200-word vocabulary, 500-word vocabulary. We want students starting at the bottom and working their way up. If it's too easy, I say read it fast, okay? They have a quiz, and so the teachers can monitor, and teachers get a free count. Next, please. And students can add reading classes. Okay, add reading classes. Okay, this is what it looks like. Continue. This is what it looks like. This is an easy story. Now stop for a minute. Okay, right there. If you look at the little over on the corner, this is listening. It has the audio, so students can read it and they can listen to a native speaker. Okay, you do not need an American accent, but you need an international accent. And the best way to get that is listen to a native speaker. Okay. So listen to me. Now, of course, so I have to be very careful about it. Next, please, continue. Okay, this is stop for a minute. Jungle Book, this is a classic, okay? If you read this, it's got 6,000 words. To listen, it takes 71 minutes to read this. Next, please. Continue. Continue. Okay, this is an example of what you can see as a teacher. You can see what they've done. Continue. Okay, continue. Okay, so you can, if you go to X reading, you can see there are 3 samples that you can kind of read portions and you can listen to. We can also set up teachers for a trial account type thing, like a 3-month, whatever. It depends, however you work that. Next, please. And then the question is, how much does it cost? And the answer is 1 cup of coffee a month per student. So it's $10. It's $10 for 6 months. And it's $16 for 1 year. Okay, next, please. Okay, so what you need to do is for M-Reader, we set up an administrator at the school. We create a school account. The administrator then puts up the teachers, the classes, the students, and turn them loose. So we want to add 10% of time or 5% of time to the teacher. We want to add 100% of time to the student. This is a very effective, cost-effective, and time-effective way of getting students to use English. Next, please. Yeah, create an environment, encourage them. Okay, next, please. Okay, this I incorporated in my grading, so I encourage my students because it's part of their grade. And as I mentioned, I have given students 100 because they've spent so much time outside of class. And then we're back to the same questions. Is reading a good thing? Yeah. Are students smarter who read? Yeah. Why aren't they reading? I don't know the answer to that one. You have to tell me why you're not having your students read. You tell me. You tell me. Okay, next, please. And that's the end.
Thank you so much.
Now, you see why I can't sit down? Okay. All right, questions, please.
Okay, then. So thank you, Tom, for helping me deliver the question.
Yes.
Well, actually, before I inviting this question, because I see that several faces are very curious to raise the question, but because of limited time, maybe I just only invite 2 or 3 questions, depend on how deep is your question. But let me share you my conclusion. The more we read, the more we will go. And reading help us to sleep faster.
Yeah. So it makes you
In not
sleepy.
academic way. But then I believe that Tom will help you to give enlightened than me. So please, Bapak Ibu, we invite 2 questions
Okay, sure.
or 3, depend on the question. Yes,
Okay.
Bapak.
So we'll work.
Please, your name and your affiliations.
Yep. Thank you very much. My name is Muhammad Nova, and I'm from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia Bandung. It is very interesting about extensive reading, but it's quite irony when I heard that we need to monitor the extensive reading. As we know, the extensive reading should be enjoyable, right? And also reading for pleasant. But when we ask the students to have an assessment like answering the quiz, which is very frustrated, and also it will make them pressure. So what do you think about it? Thank you. Do we need to evaluate
good.
our
Yeah,
extensive
good question.
reading? Yep.
Who's reading in here English books? This last semester, in the last 4 months, in the last month, how many people have read English books? How many? 2, 2, 2, 5? Really? Really? Okay, so the point is we want to monitor. We want to know, okay? You can do this the way you want, but we want to know, look, what you focus on grows. If you know the numbers, you can make them grow. If you don't know the numbers, nothing will happen, okay? So we want to do that. A question?
Thank you. My name is Alivia Dita. I'm from Teknokrat Bandar Lampung. So actually, it's a simple question. So how to make children in love with books, in love with reading? Because based on my research, that I see many children don't like to read. They like to play gadgets rather than to read. So how to make them in love with books?
Okay, this is the challenge, and maybe you have a better answer to me. But basically, how do babies learn to walk? And the answer is first they crawl, and then they take baby steps. And that's what we do. We take baby. It's where you are and where you need to go. Wherever you are is where you are, and that's where you start. Okay? We don't ask the impossible. We ask what they are able to do. So what you do, if they cannot read, older students will read to them. Okay? You have to incorporate the reading. You have to get it part of the program. That's the idea. You create the atmosphere, and where it just becomes natural that everybody's reading. Now, students who do not read will enjoy reading. True or false? No, false. I mean, they will not enjoy it. How can you enjoy something that you've never done? Okay? They have to learn. They have to go through the process of learning to read and starting to read, and then what happens? Then they like reading. Okay? You cannot expect people to like reading immediately. Who likes writing? Nobody, right? Nobody likes writing. Even writers don't like writing. Oh, they say that. Okay, do we have time? Oh, sorry.
Is there any? One more? Yes, Bapak.
What kind of feedback that we should or we can do for reading science?
You mean feedback to the
Feedback
students?
from the teachers to the
to
student?
the students. Well,
And
the feedback is that the teacher knows how many, when they report at the end, you can either report monthly. Okay, every class, my question is, how many books did you read? Okay, I'm not interested in books, I'm interested in words. But if they're reading books, they're reading words. Okay, so the question is, how many books are you, oh, you read one, oh, how many tests did you take? Who took a test this week? Okay, so it's always in front of them, okay? And the point is, they're going to report to me, they're going to make a print off of the computer and show me how many books they've read and how many words they've read, okay? Now, students are going to cheat, okay? But I'm not a policeman. I'm a cheating fool. Because you'll learn nothing. But that's fine. Because I'm not going to make rules based on one cheater, okay, or two cheaters. I don't care about that. I want all students to have maximum opportunity. Okay.
Okay, then thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank Tom for giving us some very interesting topic. Please be kind and thank you so much, Bapak Ibu, for staying with us. See you next moment. Oh, really, thank you. So, Bu Aima, I think it is time for yours.
Okay, thank you very much, and please remain on the stage to have the token of appreciation. I would like to invite Mr. Dodi Mulyadi to hand the token to Professor Tom.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed to the next agenda, we will have a performance of English Department Choir of Universitas Muhammadiyah Semarang. Before finally we have to continue to the next session. And they will eloquently sing several songs of Indonesia entitled Ampar-Ampar Pisang and also Simponi Yang Indah. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the song.
Ampar pisang, pisangku belum masak. Masak sabegi di burung bari-bari. Masak sabegi di burung bari-bari. Mengalepo, patah kayu bengkok. Bengkok dimakan api, apinya cengcurupan. Bengkok dimakan api, apinya cengcurupan. Nama batis tutup, dikit tepi dawang. Nama batis tutup, dikit tepi dawang. Ampar pisang, pisangku belum masak. Masak sabegi di burung bari-bari. Masak sabegi di burung bari-bari. Menggalepok, bengkok dimakan api, apinya cengcurupan. Bengkok dimakan api, apinya cengcurupan. Bengkok dimakan api, apinya cengcurupan. Nang bersekutu, nang manang pati sekutu. Nang bersekutu, nang manang pati sekutu. Nang bersekutu, nang manang pati sekutu. Ampar pisang, pisangku belum masak. Masak sabegi di burung bari-bari. Masak sabegi di burung bari-bari. Menggalepok, mata kayu bengkok. Bengkok dimakan api, apinya cengcurupan. 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 Kau bagai aroma penghapus pilu.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the moment that we have been waiting for, in which Dr. Willy Ardian Renandia, known as the principal lecturer at his Language and Literature Department from Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, will present to you all about teachers' proficiency and teaching effectiveness. And in presenting his paper, he will be moderated by Mrs. Jessica Maya Oktarani.
Thank you, Bu Aiman. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, I think everyone in bahagia, yeah. If you need translation after this, Yeah, after this we will translate. Yeah, basically the song is about when you have music, it seems like the flower fly, smile for you, and then also the bird smile for you as well. So I hope everyone already share this smile to everybody in the room, right? If you hasn't, then please check. You can say CG. CG in Javanese, yeah, is Javanese language mean one. CG. That's why if you say CG to your friends next to you, then I'm sure that you're going to smile to your friend. You can check. Say CG to your friend. CG. Yeah. It's not really related to the political things, yeah? Mind in your mind. Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, finally we come to the main agenda for today. We already have Prof. Willie over here. And I'm sorry I cannot read the CV because I have 20 pages of his CV. So we better check in internet for his profile. But basically, he is really busy, like helping people. Because if you already check in his Facebook account, well, it's not your Facebook account, but everyone's familiar with what's the name of the Facebook? Teacher Voices. Who's one of you here already become a member in Teacher Voices? See, a lot of them. Yeah, so you can check.
If you are not a member, you need to sign up before the end of the day. It's free.
Yeah.
Before the end of today.
Before the end of today.
It's free.
Okay. So yes.
Tomorrow you have to pay.
Yeah. So he's very kind because he always share everything in that Facebook. So feel free to access it. But I pointed one of the beautiful things over here. He was one of the best teaching assistant award. So he won award in University of Wisconsin Medicine in 1992. So give applause for him. And that's only one award. The rest you can check in the website. I'm sure when you type and Googling, you can find a lot of information about him. So we already talked about foreign language in religious perspective, psychosocial, and we also discussed about the vocabulary in learning English and also extensive reading. Probably you also questioning why the slides over there is different from those in the program book. Because initially he will talk also about extensive reading, but because Prof. Tom already mentioned it as well, so today he will share something different. If we already learned about the vocabulary and everything, extensive reading, how we can measure is checking the proficiency important. What is it, the proficiency test? So that's what we're going to have with Prof. Will. So give applause. This is your session. You can have your time.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Bapak Rektor for having me. It's an honor. The fourth rector. Okay, the fourth rector. So next year you're going to be the third or the fifth rector. Next year. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so happy to be here. And first thing I want to ask you is this. If you know the answer, then you'll be very happy. What time is lunch today? What time is lunch? 12 o'clock, yes. Pak Rector just mentioned to me something very, very important. You have to pay attention to my session. Otherwise, you will not get your lunch today. So you will have your lunch if and only if you put away things that you don't need and you focus your attention on what I will be sharing with you this afternoon. I'm from Singapore, and that reminds me of a little quotation from Pak Rektor early on. If you want to expand, if you want to learn more, if you want to increase your knowledge, you have to go to China. I'm telling you, you don't have to go to China. Singapore is very near. So you can come to Singapore and learn a lot of things. If you've been following the news, Singapore has some of the best universities in Asia. In fact, in the most recent surveys, Singapore universities are voted among the most beautiful in Asia. And that is my university, Nanyang Technological University. If you come to my university, you will see all these beautiful buildings and people as well. But beauty is just one aspect. Singapore also has some of the best universities in the world. According to the most recent surveys, my university was voted number satu, number CG not in the world, but in Asia. Nanyang Technological University. Okay, let me just get started. I'll begin by sharing with you a recent important event that was held in Jakarta in February. This happened recently. A number of people, about 70 to 75 people gathered in Jakarta. And these are good people. People like you and people like me. People whose job is to help students develop their language proficiency. These are people whose job is to train teachers to become more effective English language teachers in Indonesia. So we got together and discussed ways of improving, increasing the quality of language education in Indonesia. And one big idea, one very important idea is proficiency. So proficiency is one of the key issues that we are discussing, or we were discussing in that summit. The president of TEFLIN was there, and the president of Asia TEFL Association was also there, Pak Fuad Abdul Hamid, and Bapak Bapak Dekan from UNS, you from UNS, Pak Joko was also there. So we spent one whole day discussing ways of improving students' proficiency and also improving teachers' ability to deliver their lessons more effectively using the English language. So here are 4 things that I want to share with you this afternoon. Number 1, I want us to re-examine what we understand by proficiency. Apa sih? What is proficiency? Why is it so important? Number 2, why is proficiency so important in our job as an English teacher or a language teacher educator in Indonesia? And number 3 is how. How can we help our teachers and how can we help our students to improve on their proficiency? And eventually, if that is what we want to do in the future, so what are some of the things we need to do? This is going to affect you. This is going to affect us. This is going to affect a lot of people in Indonesia. We are really, really very serious about finding ways to improve the quality of language teacher education and language education in Indonesia. Let me begin at the first one. What is proficiency? I'm going to give you a very, very simple definition of proficiency. There you go. It's very easy. Language proficiency refers to one's ability to use language for a variety of communicative purposes. I think Pak Rektor mentioned that earlier too. It's not just about knowledge, it's about how you can use that knowledge for speaking, for writing, for reading, for listening, a wide range of communicative purposes. Now remember when you walk into the classroom, a lot of teachers do this. An English teacher walks into the classroom and he or she will say, "Good morning, class, how are you?" And the answer is, "I'm fine, thank you, and you?" That is just one small function. And at the end of the class, what do you say to the students? "See you next time." two very important functions, but I think we need to expand our understanding of what proficiency is. It should be something that goes beyond the simple greetings in the English language. How are you? I'm fine, thank you. And you? If we look at the notion of proficiency further, I think you will agree with me that there are at least four major components. Ada empat, yeah? Four major components. The first component is accuracy. How good is your pronunciation? How good is your grammar? Whether your utterances or your sentences or your speech is 100% accurate, I wouldn't say 100%, at least 90+% accurate is good enough. Fluency is another important component. Yeah, you need to be able to speak at length. You need to be able to speak for 1 minute or 2 minutes without stopping too often. That is what fluency is all about. The next one is also very important. It's called complexity. Complexity. If you or your students are able only to use very, very simple words, very, very simple sentences, then you can't say that they have reached an advanced level of proficiency in the English language. So complexity is an important consideration when we talk about proficiency. Whether you are able to use a wide range of vocabulary, whether you are able to use a wider range of sentences or grammatical structures. And finally, appropriacy. Whether what you say is relevant, whether what you say is polite, I like what Pak Rector said earlier on about smile. It's a universal language. It's good to smile when you speak in English. It's good to smile when you speak in Japanese or in Arabic. Any language, smiling is good. Smiling is an important aspect of being appropriate when you use a language. You're using non-verbal language in order to get your meanings across. So these are the four components. Let me give you a little task. Where are you or where are your students on this scale? So there are four criteria, four indicators: accuracy, fluency, complexity, and appropriacy. I want you to think about yourself. Are you a 1 on accuracy, or are you a 3 on accuracy, or are you a 5 on accuracy? What about fluency? What about complexity and appropriacy? I'll give you 30 seconds. 30 detik. 30 seconds. Done? Okay, tell your neighbor now. Whisper to your neighbor. Where are you? Oh, 30 seconds. Okay, I'll give you a bit more time. 30 seconds. Okay, 30 seconds. Where are you? If you ask this question in class to your students, where are you? They will say, I'm here, sir, I'm here. Okay, where are you on the proficiency scale? I think this is very important. You need to keep on reflecting about this issue. Proficiency is perhaps the most important skills that you need to have as an English language teacher. Okay, whisper to your neighbor, where are you? Where are you? Are you in the middle, or are you number 4? Are you number 5? You're number 3? Okay, this is very typical of people from Java. I'm right in the middle. Bahasa Inggrisnya, I'm neither here nor there. Ngalor enggak, ngidul juga enggak. Neither here nor there. Okay, let me give you another task. Let me give you another task. Now it's not about you. It's about your teachers. I know that some of you are students, or about your colleagues. So think about your teachers. Think about your teachers who you think are all 4s or 5s. Your teachers. Okay, but don't tell me who your teachers are. Okay, next. Usually, this is what happens. Usually, we try to describe proficiency in terms of categories. In terms of proficiency categories like elementary, intermediate, and advanced. Betul ya? Elementary, intermediate, and advanced. Sometimes when we are not decided, when it's difficult to decide what your proficiency, what your students' proficiency is like, then you further subdivide the category into pre-elementary and then elementary and post-elementary and sometimes post-elementary. And the list goes on. Is that a useful classification? The answer is yes and no. Yes and no. If you want to describe your students very briefly, yes, my students are of the still of the elementary level. She is fairly advanced. That's fine. But it becomes a bit difficult if you want to compare proficiency across regions in Indonesia and across regions outside Indonesia. How do we compare to Thailand? How do we compare to Vietnam? How do we compare to Malaysia? This becomes very, very important, in particular in the context of AFTA. AFTA adalah Asia something something trade agreement. AFTA is ASEAN free trade. Free trade means free. Free trade means free flow of goods, barang-barang, and free flow of services, and free flow of people as well. Let's look at the free flow of people. If you want to increase the quality of your life in terms of how much you want to earn in a month, in terms of salary, then you might want to go to Brunei and teach there. Your salary is probably 3, 4, 5 times higher there. So it's a good thing. So be good and be a good teacher and go to Brunei. If you want to catch the head of state, he is now in Indonesia. I think he was playing badminton with Jokowi yesterday. I think he was, yeah. So speak to him and ask for a job. The salary is good there. In the same way, when people from other countries come to Indonesia, I think they are free to come too, because we signed, Indonesia is one of the signatories of the AFTA agreement. So we can't say no. So comparability becomes important. If you apply for a job in Singapore, people will ask you, what is your level of proficiency? Can you function in our company in which English is the only language that is used for communication among the people in the workplace? So they need to know what your level is. You can't say, I am elementary, I am intermediate. What do you mean by intermediate? This is where we need to look at a possible standard that we might want to adopt. And this standard is called CEFR. CEFR stands for Common European Framework of Reference. Ini adalah standar kemampuan berbahasa asing, bukan bahasa Inggris saja ya. So all types of foreign language standards. I know that Thailand has just adopted this standard. Sudah. Now Thailand has a national standard of English language proficiency for their teachers and for their students. The same way, Vietnam adopted the same standard some 10 or 15 years ago. Malaysia is doing the same thing. Indonesia belum. Baru dibahas, baru didiskusikan, baru diwacanakan. Baru akan diprojekkan. So we are still a long way, but I think the trend, if you're looking about the trend and the future, this is going to be the trend. We can't say no. It is happening and we have to follow what is happening in the region. Okay, what does it look like? It's quite similar to what we saw earlier on in terms of proficiency categories. Ada 3. The most elementary is called basic proficiency or basic speaker. The middle one is called independent speakers, and the highest is proficient speakers. And each category is further subdivided into 2 levels. This is what it looks like. Ya, jadi ada basic 1, basic 2 begitu. So A1, A2, the most basic proficiency. And then we have B1 and B2, which is right in the middle. And then C1 and C2. I think you're familiar with this framework. She is from Sweden. And Sweden is in Africa. Sweden is in Eropa. And Sweden is part of the European Union. And I think Sweden is probably adopting that framework as well. What I like about this framework is that it is already well established, and you can just go to the website and find out what it means to be an A1 speaker, what it means to be an A2 speaker, what it means to be an intermediate or independent users of English. I am giving you an example here of a B2, B2. So remember A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. So it's right there, high intermediate. This is what a B2 person should be able to do with the language, whether it is English, whether it is French, Arabic, whatever. Look at this. I have highlighted the keywords there. Complex text. So if you are able only to read very simple text, then you are not a B2 student. You're not. You still have some ways to go. I am using B2 as an example because to me, or to many other people, to many other language teacher educators in Asia, I think B2 would be considered, saya ulang ya, B2 would be considered a minimum standard for English language teachers. B2. So look at this description. If you feel that, hey, I'm a B2 speaker, then you're fine. If you're not there, then you are not fine yet. But you need to get there at some point. Complex text, you can talk about both concrete and abstract topics. You can interact with people on a variety of topics. You can't just say, my name is Siti. I am from Semarang. I have 2 children. That is very simple. I don't think you are a B2 user yet. And fluently and spontaneously as well. And a wide range of subjects. So this is what I like about CFR. It gives you a very, very clear descriptions about what you are able to do and what you are not able to do. Very, very important. Keep in mind. Let us now look at English language proficiency among teachers in Indonesia. Okay, before I show you some data, where are they? Oh, they're there. Where are they? Where are they in terms of, A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2? Where? Okay, let's do it together. Together ya, diucapkan bareng-bareng begitu ya. A1, A2, atau B1, B2, atau C1, C2. 3, 2, 1. One more time. 3, 2, 1. Kurang keras. 3, 2, 1. So it's more like in the B range. Yeah. Okay, let me show you some data. I don't have a lot of data, but I think some other people whom I know here from Indonesia have some interesting data. But what I do know is that we do not have a standardized national data. Tidak ada. Adanya data yang yes, it's everywhere, but at the same time, it's nowhere. I know Pak Fuad has some data, and some other people have some data. And what I do know is generally people from Java, you, are better off compared to people from other countries. Yeah? What does it mean to you? What it means to you is that since though in those places you are better off than those people, if you want to feel good about yourself, you should move to those places, to Sulawesi or to Irian Jaya. You'll be the top #1 teacher there. I do have some data, which I'm going to share with you from RSBI school. These are schools, the international schools, who once upon a time were there, but now the government decided that it should not be there. So it's dead. I have some interesting data here. There's a lot of data there. I'm not going to ask you to read all the figures there. Let me just show you the left-hand side, which is proficiency level according to, I think this is according to TOEIC. And then on the right-hand side, English teachers in 2008. There are about 20,000+ teachers who took the test. This is data from DIGNAS. You can see very clearly here, if you require teachers to be proficient, very proficient in English, then only 5%, yang kuning itu ya, only 5% pass the test basically, the rest no. If you lower the standard a little bit, then you get about basic, working, and intermediate, which is about, berapa itu tadi? 21 plus 39. You add them up, what do you get? I shouldn't have asked you. I mean, English teachers are not good with maths. And that's one of the reasons when I speak to teachers, why do you decide to study English or to become English teachers? Because I'm not good at maths. So the middle one, if you lower the standard a little bit, the middle one is okay. But look at the last two, elementary and novice. That's like 30+% of these teachers should not be teaching maths or sciences using English. They can't do it. I think it's very cruel to teach your students a content subject using language that you are not very proficient in. I think that's very cruel. Okay, so that is some data from Indonesia. But you don't have to feel bad about that. The data is interesting, and if you look at the region, Vietnam, Thailand, and so on, you will find that they have similar challenges, they have similar problems as well. So last year, 2017, at the Asia TEFL conference happening, it took place in Yogyakarta, 2017. I put together a team of experts from several countries in Asia. Yang sebelah kiri sendiri adalah Ibu Suwarsih Madya. Ibu Suwarsih Madya from UNY. Seorang tokoh di bidang pendidikan bahasa Inggris di Indonesia, Ibu Suwarsih Madya. Next to him is a very senior English language educator from Japan. The name is Masaki Oda. And then the middle one is your compatriot from Thailand. It's Bapak Pragasit. Can you say that name again?
Pragasit.
Pragasit. In Thailand, you put the stress on the last syllable. It's not Pragasit, but it's Pragasit, like that. You don't say Coca-Cola, but you have to say
Coca-Cola.
There you go. Cola, like that. Last syllable is very important. Coca-Cola. Enak sekali di Thailand itu. And they smile all the time. I just learned earlier today that in Thailand, the language has a lot of open vowels or open syllables. Cola. I like that. And then next to him, next to the middle one is a lady from Malaysia. And the last person on the right-hand side is Professor Levan Khan from Vietnam. So I had them together and I asked them to talk about language teacher proficiencies in their own countries. Very interesting data. And after you see the data, you will agree with me that, oh, okay, Indonesia is not too bad. You're happy, right? When people say Indonesia is not too bad. I think you should be very unhappy because not too bad means not too good as well. This is Thailand. This is data from information from Professor Pragasit. He teaches at Thammasat University, one of the best universities in Thailand. This is what he says. Just look at the highlighted text. Only 20% were teaching class levels for which they were both qualified and competent. I don't know whether this data represents the whole of Thailand, but at least there was one study in Thailand done recently that indicated that proficiency of the teachers is a major, 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 major issue. Let's look at Vietnam. I mentioned earlier on that in Vietnam, the government was aware of the problem and they started some 10 years ago. Now they have a national foreign language policy called Project 2020. It started about 10 years ago. So it's going to end very soon. But I hear that the government is going to expand to further extend the project for another 5 years because they have seen some results, some positive results of the policy. Look at this is data about the teachers of English at the primary, lower secondary, and also upper secondary level. The first set of data here. So it's about 6-7 years ago. Only 17% of the primary school teachers met the national foreign language proficiency requirement. At the secondary level, only 13%. At the upper secondary, itu seperti high school, itu hanya 8%. And then the government organized massive retraining of the teachers to improve on their pedagogy and also their English language proficiency. And there was some significant, important improvement from 2011 to 2014 and 2015. Look at that. Yeah, sudah sampai di tengah. Still not there yet, but I think the government has been trying very hard to encourage teachers to work on their proficiency. In Malaysia, again, Malaysia has also recently adopted the CFR standard. Now they have a very, very clear goals in mind in terms of teaching and the learning of English in schools and also for other people at the university level. I think the most relevant for us in language teacher education is the last one, teacher education. Teacher education are people like us in teacher education, Ibu Jessica and other Ibu Mila, Eva, Pak Dodi and some other people. These are people in language teacher education. We train teachers like me. I train teachers as well. The government in Malaysia has decided that for you to become a language teacher educator, for you to go through the English language teacher education program, before you graduate, you need to show evidence that your level is C1, C1. Unimas akan memberikan hadiah untuk mahasiswa yang lulus dengan C1 atau C2. Hadiahnya sedang didiskusikan oleh Pak Rektor. It's true, and it's the stick and the carrot approach to education. If you do well, you get rewarded. If you don't do well, I don't know what to do with you. In Malaysia, for example, recently the government decided to reward teachers who are able to show evidence that their proficiency is at C1. They get some 5,000 ringgit. Okay, we are done with teachers, yeah? And now we are going to look at students. Students, we are going to look at some data about the population in the region in terms of their English language proficiency. I have some data from EF, English First. Regularly, every year, they publish international data of the English language proficiency of countries all over the world. Now, here are some countries in Asia. Ada 10, ya, countries in Asia. Look at these countries, Korea, Taiwan, Japan, Malaysia, Indonesia, and all that. Where do you put Indonesia? Although Ajahn Angkana shared with you early on that guessing is not good, but this time I'm going to tell you guessing is good. How would you rate or rank order these countries in terms of their proficiency level? Which one comes first? Which one comes next? And so on. Can you tell your neighbor very quickly? Tell your neighbor. Singapore is number one. Number two is Singapore. Number three is Singapore. Pak Rector told me a very interesting joke earlier today. Is Singapore still poor? It took me a while to process that information. Is Singapore still poor? Or is it Singapore, or is it rich now? Okay, number one. What's number one? Number one is Singapore. Number two. Number three. Number four. Number 10. There you go. Singapore is number one. Number two is Malaysia. Number three is the Philippines. 5 is Hong Kong. 6 is South Korea. 7 is Vietnam. 8, I don't know. Indonesia is number 10. Wait. Again, don't feel too bad. Here is one question for you. If you know the answer, then you get to have lunch early. How many countries are there in Asia? How many countries? Okay, very good answer. More than 10. So Indonesia is not too bad because it's number 10. There are other countries that are way below Indonesia. Countries like Pakistan, for example. Countries like Cambodia is way below Indonesia. So don't feel too bad. But don't feel too good as well. Number 10 is not that wonderful. Okay, let me give you additional evidence. Ada bukti baru. Ini menarik sekali. This is very interesting because this is very much related to Professor Angkana's presentation just now. It's about vocabulary. There was one study, research study that was done by Ibu Dosen. I don't know where she is from. I don't know whether she is still teaching, but she did her study in New Zealand when she was doing a master's degree with John Reed at the University of Auckland, 1999. And this study was widely cited by many vocabulary researchers. The study collected data from non-English major students from a number of universities in East Java, dari Jawa Timur. And the researchers found that the vocabulary size of the students on average were about 1,226. Now, if you have been listening very carefully to Professor Angkana's presentation, then you would be able to say that this is, number 1, enough. Number 2, not enough. Number 3, not very enough. Which one? A, B, or C? Not enough. Just not enough or not very enough? I don't know if you can say that. Not very. Can you say, Tom, can you say not very enough? You can't say that. But it's not enough. I think it's understandable. It's not enough. Clearly not enough. I like that. Clearly not enough. So don't come to Singapore for English. Clearly, obviously, it's not enough. You need at least 2,000 to 3,000 for spoken proficiency in the English language. If you want to be able to read texts, especially ESP, or English for Special Purposes text, you need more words. This is a piece of research that I really like because it tells you exactly how many words you need. So this is additional information that I can share with you. It's about text comprehension or reading comprehension depends. I need to read this very carefully, and you have to read this together with me. Okay, 3, 2, 1. We are going to read this together. Text comprehension together, please. Heavily on detailed knowledge of most of the words in the text. Good students. Well done. Sometimes it's a good thing to ask your students to repeat after you, but not too often, yeah? If you do that too often, it's not good. So the key word here is you need to know most of the words, and she and also Thomas earlier shared with you, most means 98 or 99% of the words. Tidak cukup hanya 90% of the words. 98 or 99% of the words. That's a lot. The other one is you need to know these words really, 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 really well. If not, then your comprehension will be very superficial. Your understanding will be very shallow, will be, not enough. Clearly, not very good. And the article says you need about 3,000 to 5,000 words to read non-specialist text. Non-specialist adalah general purpose. Pada umumnya, baca surat kabar bisa. 3 to 5,000. 3 is like very, very, very minimum. 5,000 is good. If you know a bit more words, like 8,000, that's even better. So 8,000 words will be the level that C1 and C2 people usually have acquired. Now here is additional data. I think if you've done your statistics, you will understand this very easily. The relationship between vocabulary and language skills, your ability to use language. Look at the correlation. Pay attention in particular to the last one. The correlation, the relationship between vocabulary size and writing. If you find writing very difficult, especially if you are working on your thesis or dissertation at the moment, and if you feel that it's so painful to write, maybe it's because you do not have enough words in the first place. It's because you don't know these words very well. That's why it's so painful. This data shows you very clearly that you need a sizable vocabulary. So Nurweni's research that shows that students only know about 1,200 words is way, way, way not enough. That's another way of saying it. It's way, 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 way not enough. Clearly not enough. Are you seriously from Myanmar? How did you get here? Did you fly? You're from Flores. Oh, you're studying at UNS. Oh, okay. So you flew from Solo to Semarang? You flew? Okay, next one. So if you look at what proficiency is, there are 4 indicators, remember? Accuracy, and then fluency, and then complexity, and also appropriacy. And then we look at the proficiency region. So we're not doing too badly, but we're not too doing well either. Next one is we're going to look at this. This is probably the most important of my presentation today. Why is proficiency important? Let me start with a broader overview of why proficiency generally is important for people in the world. English plays such an important role in the world that people have done research and looked at the relationship between high proficiency and your quality, your life quality. Here, English language proficiency is related, is correlated with HDI index. What is HDI? Human Development Index. Human Development Index. Itu antara lain adalah level of education. If you have a high level of English proficiency, chances are you are more educated. That's what it means. Literacy. Ini penting juga nih, literacy. If you are educated in English language and your proficiency is quite high, that means that your literacy level tends to be higher as well. Again, Pak Rector had a very interesting quote earlier today that reading is the very first thing that got mentioned in the Quran. That reading is so important. And yet, at the same time, we know that in Indonesia, literacy is not wonderful. Literacy is... I didn't need to tell you, literacy level in Indonesia, tidak dijawab, is quite low. Yeah, a lot of international test comparisons show that Indonesia has consistently performed poorly, almost at the bottom. So it's number 2 at the bottom in terms of literacy level. Literacy itu tidak hanya sekedar bisa membaca, tapi juga memahami. So I am really, really worried as a language educator. I'm really worried that, you know, there are many things that we can do to help our students, our children, to increase their level of literacy. Life expectancy tends to be higher as well. And finally, your standards of living. If you have a good level of proficiency in English, chances are you'll be able to get a better job, either in Indonesia or overseas. Itu alasan ekonomi pada umumnya ya, akan sosial ekonomi bisa meningkat. Now how about this? Pedagogical reason. We are all teachers. Minimally, there are 3 types of knowledge that we must acquire, and we must acquire these very well. Number 1 is knowledge in English or proficiency in English. Number 2 is knowledge about English. It's important too because we need to be able to explain certain grammatical rules. Not all the time, but if there is a need, then you can do that. You can explain the morphological components of a vocabulary word, and we also need to know how to teach English well in the classroom. So I would like to claim that proficiency is a sine qua non of effective teaching. Sine qua non adalah prerequisite, a precondition. What it means is this: if you have proficiency, you have a good chance of being able to become effective teachers. But it doesn't mean that if you are proficient in English, you'll become a wonderful teacher. No, I'm not saying that. But in order for you to become effective English language teachers, you need to reach a certain level of proficiency. Otherwise, you won't be able to do it. It's a sine qua non, it's a precondition, it's a prerequisite to becoming effective English teachers. Apakah ada datanya? Ada. Let me share with you a piece of data from New Zealand. It's a very interesting study. The research involves a number of foreign language teachers in New Zealand. Foreign here refers to not English, but other foreign languages that are taught in New Zealand, including bahasa Indonesia, bahasa Arab atau bahasa Mandarin, bahasa Prancis, dan sebagainya. And the researcher divided the groups, the participants, into 2. The higher ability in terms of proficiency and the lower proficiency teachers. And they asked a very important questions. Are these 2 groups of teachers, one high, one not so high, are they equally effective in their teaching? That is what they wanted to find out. Now, in order to answer that questions, they needed to operationalize in some way what is meant by effective teaching. Itu ya ceritanya ya. Okay, let's look at this. So the researcher decided to look at these 7 dimensions of teaching of an effective foreign language teachers in the classroom. Number 1, whether or not the teacher is able to exploit to the fullest the target language resources. Number 2, whether the teachers are able to provide appropriate language models in terms of pronunciation, in terms of competent usage of the English language. Number 3, in terms of the teacher's ability to provide feedback. Very important skill that the teacher must have, and so on and so forth. Number 7 is interesting, ability to improvise. Itu artinya adalah apakah seorang guru itu bisa keluar jalur gitu loh. Tidak sesuai dengan lesson plan. Misalnya, you have designed a lesson plan, but somewhere in the middle you feel that the lesson is not going anywhere. You feel that, I don't think I need to go on. I think I need to change the activities. I need to expand the activities. That is the ability to improvise. Tidak sesuai dengan lesson plan karena somewhere in the middle the students are not paying attention. Maybe the students find the lesson boring and so on and so forth. That is a very, very important skill of a teacher. So are you with me? So these are the 7 dimensions of an effective English teacher. There are more. Ada lain lagi ya. But the researcher decided to focus on these 7 dimensions Dan kemudian dilihat apakah ada bedanya antara higher proficiency teachers and lower proficiency teachers. Hasilnya seperti apa? What is the result like? There you go. The higher proficiency foreign language teachers are able to do all 7 satisfactorily. 7, all 7, okay, they pass. But for the lower proficiency teachers, they are able to do only 5 aspects and they perform very badly on the last 2. Menjelaskan nggak jelas, begitu. Nomor 6. Terus improvisation minimal or non-existent. So ada bedanya ya. Jadi proficiency memang punya peran yang cukup penting yang bisa membedakan seseorang itu bisa mengajar dengan baik atau tidak. Here is another piece of study in Hong Kong, very interesting, but this one shows, the study shows that proficiency actually makes no difference. Interesting, isn't it? Proficiency makes no difference. Other things are more important according to this study. So the researcher interviewed Hong Kong college English teachers because they wanted to find out the relationship between proficiency and teaching effectiveness. There was no relationship. Artinya apa ini? Nah, ini menarik sekali. Now this is interesting. Guru bahasa Inggris di Hong Kong itu sudah memiliki proficiency sekitar IELTS 7. Now this is very interesting. And because of that, because after you have reached a certain level of proficiency, proficiency no longer plays an important role. There are other things that are more important. And what are these other things that are more important? Things like the teacher's ability to motivate, to engage the students in the classroom becomes more important than proficiency. But the message here is very clear. You need to have a certain threshold level of proficiency before other things can, take over and become important in your teaching. This is very, very interesting. Hong Kong has its own English language test for English teachers. If you are in Hong Kong and if you want to become English teachers, it is not enough for you to just graduate from a faculty of education. Tidak cukup. You need to take a test, proficiency test, and you need to reach a certain standard. If you fall below that standard, you are not able to get a job anywhere in Hong Kong. The regulation was in force about 15 years ago. At first, all teachers there were not very happy because they were not able to reach that standard. But now everyone is happy because they know that that is the expectations. So if you want to work in Hong Kong, you need to reach IELTS 7, or in their test, it's called LPAT test. It's a very interesting test. Now, this is what the future is going to be like for language teacher education in many places in Asia. Same thing is likely to happen in Indonesia as well. That before you graduate, how old are you? Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4 students? Are you a teacher? You are a student, undergraduate or graduate? Sudah terlambat postgraduate. If you are an undergraduate student majoring in English language education, then you or your institutions will not let you go free or pass or graduate before you meet the exit requirement. Sekarang ini sudah ada entry requirements ya. Semua yang mau masuk disaringkan begitu kan. Exitnya nggak ada. Exit is seperti sepak bola itu loh. Ada goalkeepersnya. We do not have the goalkeepers because we don't have a standard. Because we don't have a national standard. So maybe Unimas can start the ball rolling. So starting next year, if you don't pass the test, you can't graduate. That's a bit cruel. Terakhir, it's almost time. It's almost 12 o'clock according to my watch. Almost 12. The last one is how to improve proficiency. I think Tom did a good job just now, and Ibu Angkana also did a good job. You need to do a lot of things. Let me share with you a very, very important and insightful piece of information. Ada seorang peneliti namanya Ortega, namanya Lourdes Ortega. She is a researcher. She is a second language researcher, and she's done a lot of work. And recently, she did a paper in which she evaluated, dia mengevaluasi sejumlah teori-teori second language acquisition theories. Ada 10 atau 15 begitu. Dari 15 itu dipilah-pilah. Dipilah-pilah mana yang kayaknya penting untuk language teaching, mana yang kayaknya tidak begitu penting. So she came up with these classifications. That those theories that seem to have no relevance or no effect in terms of English language teaching in the classroom. Number 2, there are some theories that may probably have some effect. Dan yang ketiga adalah theories that have beneficial effects in language teaching. Let me share with you the last category. Those theories that have beneficial effect. Ini, ada 3. Yang satu adalah input theory. Thomas' presentation is about input. Comprehensible input. Extensive reading is about providing a lot of language input to your students. Number 2 is interaction theory. How you use that input for talking, for writing, for interacting with other people. And number 1 is skill learning theory. Skill learning theory is very simple. You learn to read. You learn to read by, please finish my sentence. You learn to read by, one more time. You learn, I know it's 12 o'clock. You learn to read by, okay, maybe before that. You learn to walk by walking. You learn to swim by swimming. Itu skill learning theory. You learn to read by reading. You learn to listen by listening. You learn to speak by? Not true. In English language learning, that's not how it works. The speaking and the writing come after. The speaking and the writing are the effect, not the cause. The cause of acquisition is reading and listening. So that is what the input theory, interaction theory, and skill learning theory is all about. Let me skip this. Ini. Just reinforcing what Thomas said early on. In 2005, Alan Mady is one of the top English language specialists in the world, and he said this: extensive reading is perhaps the single most important way to improve language proficiency. Yuk kita ulang bareng-bareng yuk. Extensive reading, 1, 2, 3. Extensive reading is perhaps the single most important to improve language proficiency. And say that, I believe that. Thank you. Yes, thank you. And Alan Mady is not the only person. This is another very, very good guy. Name is Paul Nation. And the guy here, right, listening to him at the Asia TEFL conference is me. I was there on the front row. And Paul Nation said the same thing. The number one way, let's do it one more time. The number one way to improve proficiency is via extensive reading. 2 orang. 3. Here is a better quote. The best way, we'll read it together. The best way I can tell that most of the people here are teachers and most of the people here are students. No, students follow orders. Teachers don't. And that's the guy who said that. Okay, I think I'm going to skip this. And I'm going to leave you with this very, very important quote from the book. This book has nothing to do with English language learning, but I learned so much from this book. The book is The Power of Habit. And in that book, the author mentions keystone habits. Now let's look at the definition of keystone habits. Keystone habits can spark chain reactions that help other good habits to take hold. Jadi kunci. Yeah, if you exercise regularly, I think that is a very important keystone habit, because if you exercise regularly, you will also pay attention to your health. You will be very careful in what you eat, and there are a lot of other things that can follow. So keystone habit. I have a feeling that proficiency is one of those keystone habits in English language teaching. If you are proficient in English, you are able to explain things clearly in the classroom. You are able to provide a lot of good examples. You are able to assess your students accurately. You are able to engage students in very, very interesting discussions and learning in the classroom, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. So, last slide. So here is a summary of my presentation today. Proficiency is a sine qua non. Remember that word. Sine qua non is a prerequisite. You need to have it. If you don't have it, it's very difficult for you to become an effective teacher. You can be a good teacher. You can be an inspiring teacher. No issue. But you may not be an effective teacher. Beda, nggak sama. Inspiring teacher is a teacher that everyone loves in the classroom. But what everyone loves in the classroom may not be an indicator that you are an effective language educator. Tidak sama. Effective means you are able to do a good job teaching your students how to use English for communication. Number two, I think Indonesia will need to work very hard to develop a national proficiency framework. We don't have one yet. The last two, this is my suggestions for pre-service. I think we need more stringent exit requirements. Kalau yang sudah terlanjur menjadi guru bahasa Inggris, I think the government will have to work very seriously in upgrading, improving the proficiency of English teachers in Indonesia. This is my last slide. In July, I will be going to several places doing a roadshow. It's called Extensive Reading Roadshow. The roadshow begins at UNS Solo. It continues in Salatiga, and then it goes all the way to Jakarta. Pay a little, like 75,000. That's to pay for your snack and your drink. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of my presentation. I would like to thank you very much for listening to me. And lunch is going to be served very soon. But you have to convince Pak Rektor that you have been paying attention. Otherwise, you will not get your lunch ticket.
Okay.
If you want to, you can clap your hands now.
Thank you, Professor Willie. Okay, I just been called by the staff. The food is ongoing, so don't worry. Everyone's got their meal very soon, but we still have for about 15 minutes to discuss. So I'd like to invite 3 questioners, and the rest, we're really sorry. Probably you can directly, you can just Googling and find out the information about him, and then you can also ask questions to him through email, yeah? So for now, 3 questioners, please. 1 in the left side. Okay, 2 over there. So we go for 2 first. Oh, 3 with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. My name Arham. I'm an affiliation from Unhas, University Hasanuddin, Makassar, South Sulawesi. I'm also one of TV members, teacher voice member. You have to CPR standard as your as the expert or as educators, I would like to hear from you, Prof. Willy. Uh, why Indonesia has not have a standardized as of a speaker level? Maybe do you have some advices to find out to find way out our problem? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Pa. A quick response to that. The answer is, I don't know actually. I don't know why we don't have a standard yet. But I do know that our colleagues in Indonesia, teman-teman yang mengajar bahasa Prancis, they have already adopted the CFR standard. They have, sudah. So I was a bit surprised when I met a French teacher from UPI a few months ago. She said, "Pa, we are already using it." But for some reasons, our English language colleagues have not used CFR. Instead, they have been focusing their attention on TOEFL and IELTS and other kind of tests. These tests are fine, but they're not the most wonderful. They're not the most wonderful. Itu bahasa halusnya begitu. They're not the most wonderful. In fact, they are not wonderful. They are good as a requirement for you if you want to study in universities in Australia, in New Zealand, in the UK, and other places. But they don't tell you very much about your proficiency. What you need is a general English language proficiency plus your classroom language proficiency. As a teacher, you need to use English efficiently and effectively in the classroom for teaching purposes. Jadi kalau boleh saya ulang, I think we need a B1 maybe plus specialization in classroom language. Kalau bisa B2 plus specialization in classroom language. I think I mentioned the test in Hong Kong. The test in Hong Kong is very, very special because the test includes two major components. Number one, your proficiency in English. Number dua adalah your ability to use English for teaching purposes. So you have to do a lesson demonstration in the classroom using English. So when you pass that test, that means that your English is good, nomor satu. Yang kedua, you are able to use that knowledge for teaching purposes. Dua hal itu ya, bagus sekali. So again, the answer is, I don't know why. Tadi satu lagi.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that is the answer.
Okay, that's the answer. So
maybe I
he
should.
doesn't know.
Maybe I should apa itu ikut pilkada.
Then you
Karena
can
yang bisa bikin aturan itu adalah orang-orang politik,
Yeah.
politisi yang bikin aturan.
Policy maker.
Policy makers. I think I need to sign up for the next pilkada.
Go for it. Thank you. Okay, let's go to the next question. We go to that round first.
Student or teacher? Both.
Both. Thanks for the chance. My name is Nur Hamida from ONS. So I'm asking about switching in class. So sometimes, no, sometimes, but often students switch is triggered by teachers' example. Some experts said that teachers induced code switching. So my question is, to what certain point teachers can free themselves from such agony? So because we know that teachers has low level proficiency most.
Okay, so this is about switching from English to the local language.
Local.
Okay, I have no objections. You can switch from English to Bahasa Indonesia in the classroom, but the percentage, the portion should be quite minimal. How minimal is minimal? 10% maybe? 15%? As long as you have very strong pedagogical reasons why you switch. I think there's been a lot of studies that shows that teachers very often switch to students' local language when, number one, when they want to explain things very quickly. Because if they use English, it will take them like 1 whole hour to explain, like subjunctive clause. How are you going to explain subjunctive clause in English? Even if you try to explain subjunctive clauses in English, you will end up confusing your students. Langsung aja terjemahkan subjunctive clause adalah klausal subjunctive. Sudah selesai. And then you move on. You need to have good reasons. And your reason should be pedagogically sound. Tidak asal-asal, today I want to use Javanese. Tomorrow I want to use Sundanese. Why? Because I like it. You can't. I don't think you can do that. Remember, the classroom, for many of your students, the classroom is probably the only place. It's not true anymore, but to a large extent, the classroom is the only place where the students get to hear good English. I pray very hard that the students will hear a lot of good English in the classroom. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you very much for your question. Last
Thank
one.
you. Last one.
Ibu Grace.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I forget because I used to address you, Mr. Yao, when I used to be his students in Akaba. So, Pak Willy, okay. I'm not going to ask you a question, but I'm going to give you some untold information. I saw that in your presentation that you lack of the data, national data of the teachers. You can open it on hasil rekapitulasi UKG 2015. That is the national teachers competency examination, the whole nation, including me. I'm in there on 2015, and the result is like this. We have the passing grade of the UKG Uji Kompetensi Guru. The national passing grade is 55. And then the result is only 7 provinces. Only 7 provinces that can surpass the passing grade. Yeah, that is Yogyakarta, Central Java, DKI Jakarta, East Java, Bali, Bangka Belitung, and West Java. Yeah, the highest one is went to the Yogyakarta with 62.58. 58.
What about the lowest?
Yeah.
The lowest.
No,
paling
the
bawah?
highest.
Yes. What
yeah.
about the lowest yang paling
The
bawah?
lowest, here there is a, I mean graphic, but I cannot see because it's too little. You can check it on, and then after that, after the result, the government held some kind of workshop, but the workshop is using e-learning. E-learning, we called it Guru Pembelajar, Guru Pembelajar program. Okay, but we cannot make sure or guarantee that the result will be very good because there are still teachers who cannot improve their learning. You know, because like the teacher who teaches, it is not the expert, but it is the teacher who has, they called it high proficiency, teaching their peers. Yeah, but we cannot guarantee how high is the proficiency of those teachers.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
And
you,
then,
Grace.
Yeah, we got the point.
Can I
Questions?
add one?
Yes.
Not
Okay.
question.
Okay.
Okay. And then the teacher who get the certificate fee from the government are reluctant to to expand their proficiency. Yeah, because how you see how many teachers are
Yes,
willingly to involve.
Yes,
Yeah.
they use the money to buy cars.
And
or
then
new houses.
the self-pride, sir, the self-pride, they feel that the government hurt their pride if they have to follow such as
training
to
program.
fall, yeah,
Okay.
so they can see they
Yes.
will be revealed their
Yes.
weakness. Okay,
Okay,
thank you very much.
Okay, the reason I asked her about the lowest performing province is that so that you know and you know where to go in order to shine there. But anyway, yes, very interesting data. Two things that I want to say. Number one, good that we have some data. Number one. Number two, I think we need to take it one step further. 55 doesn't mean anything. 55 doesn't tell you about what the teachers are able to do with English. So that is something that, you know, language teacher, language teacher education providers seperti kita. IKIP ya, dulu namanya IKIP, sekarang namanya Fakultas Pendidikan. English language teaching providers, I think they must work very hard to develop, not just wait for the governments to give you the test. You need to develop your own tests. And your tests should be more informative, should be better than those tests that you have seen, like 55. What does it mean? 60, what does it mean? Doesn't tell you anything. We need a very clear descriptors of what students, what teachers level are at, and you should be able to say, okay, this teacher is able to do this and that, but he is not able to do A, B, and C. So I'm going to send you for training so that you can improve on, you know, things that you are not very good at. Again, I would like to suggest that we adopt CEFR. I think CEFR is there. Jangan merasa bahwa CEFR itu buatan Eropa. Tidak. I think it's a very good standard because it has been used by many other institutions for any language proficiency assessments in the world. Tidak hanya di Malaysia atau di Vietnam, but in any many other places in the world. The criteria are very clear, the descriptors are very clear. You just need to develop your own test according to the dimensions, you know, of the standards.
Okay, thank you, Pak Willy. Give applause to Pak Willy. Okay.
If you want to have lunch now, give me a louder applause.
Yeah, exactly, because the chef just calling and then say that the food is ready. So we come to the final session for today. After this, you're going to have a parallel sessions, and we would like to inform you as well that our conference also in live streaming. So after this, if you think that you still can access all of the session that we have, you can just Googling or type in YouTube, the keyword is ELLiC, and then you still can have the session that we have today. So for the last session, we believe that it's like a calling for us, that we have to aware, that we have to know whether we already have our own proficiency or not. If we still on, let's say, A1, then we have to boost ourselves. Otherwise, it seems like very cruel if we teach our students, but we don't know where is actually our position. Yeah. So again, let's give a big applause for our session and Prof. Willy. So that's all for our last session. Have a great time after this and enjoy the meal. For those who are not from Semarang, if you feel you can travel to have a city tour, you can just contact the committee. The students probably they can help you to escort you to have a city tour later on. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Willy, for the outstanding presentation. And please remain on the stage because we would like to present a token of appreciation. And we would like to invite Professor Dr. Jamaluddin Darwis, MA, Okay, to hand the token to our speaker, Dr. Willy. Okay, thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed to the next agenda, which is the panelization held in different rooms, we would like to invite you to have pre-prepare and lunch in the next room for 60 minutes from now. Okay, but before that, let me inform you that the certificate will be distributed in the end of this event by submitting the form of evaluation that will be submitted to you, okay, on parallelization as well. Okay, and finally, ladies and gentlemen, please be back to your own room for presenting your paper at 1:30. Thank you very much and see you.
Ampun, Masya Allah.